Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night. I said it the wrong way round again, like I always do. We are currently infatuated by a moth, including Stasi. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's review. Can I introduce myself and you first? Can I not just do an intro for once where I don't have you go, don't forget the cat? Exactly, shut up. Anyway, hello everyone. I'm Papa Midnight 8, joined as ever by Amelia, the wife, the missus, the woman. I'm getting a look right now. Aka the Obsidian Nook Pale ASMR. Also joined, importantly, by Stasi, the cat, who is the one with the most infatuated by that moth. We are looking this week at the 2013 remake of Carrie that took absolutely ages to track down a copy of.
Oh, I see it. Sorry.
It
This
took
is
so
gonna
long.
be the episode where
This took so long to track down that we didn't find it and ended up having to buy it digitally, just because we could not find a copy of this anywhere. But we found it digitally, so we'll take it.
I actually quite liked it.
She liked it despite not being a viewer of the. I don't know why I said it like that. She's not seen the original, neither has she read the book.
His eyes are getting wider, wider,
I know, Stasi is completely infatuated by this fucking moth.
Like, you know, when the black bits in their eyes get wider and wider, they're so
Mm.
wide, it's unbelievable.
It is like Boba.
He doesn't look concerned at all.
He's very. He's concentrating quite hard. Anyway, back on track. Do I own a copy of Carrie? Is that one of the ones I got?
What do you mean?
Do I own a copy of the book? I can't. I don't think I do. I might do. It might be there. It might just be the other way around.
Oh,
Either way, anyway. So yeah, Amelia has not seen the original film or the 2002 remake. Stasi's just looking at me. I'm terrified. I'm scared the moth is right there. So yeah, we've not seen the original, nor have we. Well, Amelia's not seen the original or the other remake. She's not read the book. I haven't read the book. It's on my list, which I probably should have done before we watched this, but we sort of did this as a very improvised review. It was your choice, but because it was payday recently and we saw it, I just thought, fuck it, we'll get it. And then you chose that because we had it and you've been itching to watch it. Like, ever since you saw clips of it on TikTok, which is usually where you get your film interests from, that's where half of your films have come from, is I've seen clips of it on TikTok and I thought it looked cool.
yeah, but it has Chloe Grace Moretz in it, so I recognised her from.
She's in quite a lot of
She's done the
bits.
She's done the Fifth Wave that we watched. She's done Greta, which I haven't.
Fifth Wave.
I have the Fifth.
You said that we've watched.
No, sorry, the Fifth Wave I have on, and I've watched it numerous times.
Yeah.
She's also been in Greta that we've watched. She's
I
also.
can't believe I haven't seen these
Sorry.
films.
She's also been in.
She's been in Kick-Ass, famously. I have to say, she's probably that's probably the most popular thing she's been in is Kick-Ass.
She's done like
Fifth Wave,
If I
The
Stay.
Equalizer. Oh, of course she's been in The
That's
Equalizer.
another one.
Tom and Jerry.
Because I have that on DVD. If I Stay.
That recently came out. Dark Shadows. That's meant to be quite good.
I did not.
Bad Neighbours 2. Big Mama's House 2.
Bad Neighbours I liked.
One of the many Amityville horrors. She was in The Addams.
She played the
Bolt.
girl.
She's in a lot. She was in another film with Ansel Elgort or whatever his name is. Anyway, we'll get to that when we cover it. That saves me going for a while. I feel she's only 26, so she was actually like 16 when this film came out. She's done so much. Do you want me to embarrass? Well, I'm not going to embarrass you very much. She's younger than you.
I know.
Jeez, Louise. Anyway, we'll actually get on with the review now. So this film was directed by Kimberly Peirce. I am not familiar with her work, however, we will have a little. She is known for not a lot, weirdly. However, I feel like that happens all the time recently. It's just we're getting films where I'm just like, I don't know who you are. I do not know anything you've done, but this is probably her most famous project she's been a part of. Of course, as mentioned, this is adapted from the Stephen King novel of the same name, alongside being a remake of a remake of a original. No, a remake of a remake. Yeah, because you've got the 2002 version and you've got this version as well as the 1976 version. I'm sure we'll cover the other two in due time, but for now we'll just stick with this one. We are going against our golden rule of doing an entire series from start to finish. We are sticking with the last one for a change. So yeah, forgive us for that. We just wanted to get this one done. And Amelia was itching ever since she heard of it, as I mentioned. So we'll get right into it now. Spoilers ahead, of course. If you haven't seen the other two films, no, forgive me. The 2002 film isn't a remake. It's a sequel. It was a very weird sequel. I've been saying that wrong the entire time. I do apologise. It's called Rage Carrie 2. It was very much not really related. The Rage Carrie 2, yeah. It did have the original actress for Sue Snell back, but it was kind of a sequel, kind of not. It was very much just trying to cash in on about 23 years too late. Anyway, I'll get on with it. So, at her home, a deeply religious woman, Margaret White, who is played by, of course, Julianne Moore in this version. Julianne Moore we will be seeing soon when I eventually get round to covering Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World. However, of course, she is known for this. She is known for Hannibal, the 2001 remake, a sequel to Silence of the Lambs. She was also in Kingsman: The Golden Circle, Hunger Games: and Mockingjay Part 1. Yep, The Big Lebowski, Mockingjay Part 2. She's in quite a lot. She's quite a well-known actress. So she's also just got one of those faces you recognise. If you've seen one of her films, obviously you know she's what she looked like. But anyway, so yeah, Margaret says a prayer to God as she gives birth to a baby girl who we later know as Carrie. Why did the fucking review just close itself? Upset at this revelation, she grabs scissors to attempt to stab her, but stops herself before stabbing her and proceeds to nurture her instead. Many years later, Carrie, who is now played by Chloe Grace Moretz, as mentioned earlier. I'm not going to go through her films again. She is at school where she clearly gets jealous over Sue and Tommy. Sue Snell and Tommy Ross, I should say. Sue Snell is played by Gabriella Wilde. I'm not familiar with what she's been in. I don't really know who she is. However, she is known for this and Wonder Woman 1984, and that's about it. And do you remember Saint Tridians?
Saint Tridians,
yeah. Yeah, she was in the sequel to that. So yeah, not a lot. And a 2011 version of The Three Musketeers. And Tommy, of course, being played by Ansel Elgort. I'm probably absolutely butchering that. Oh, no. Why is there an article there that says he's had allegations? Fantastic. Anyway, of course, he's known for the Divergent films. He's known for Baby Driver, The Fault in Our Stars, West Side Story, other stuff. As I say, Baby Driver is probably what I know him from the most. And that is a film with Kevin Spacey in which, after he had all those allegations at him, thrown at him, there was a lot of lines you you could interpret differently. However, his case got dismissed. I think he's been found innocent. Doesn't matter, we're not talking about that. During their swimming lessons, which are taught by Rita Desjardins. That keeps just closing on its own. I would call her Rita because I keep absolutely butchering her last name. She is played by Judy Greer. Not seen directly on the channel just yet, however, we did cover a sequel to a movie she's been in, Halloween Ends. because of course she was in Halloween, the 2018 one, and Halloween Kills. But she was also briefly in Jurassic World cover eventually as the pointless, annoying kid character's mother. I hate them fucking kids in that film. Anyway, in the locker room, Carrie is self-conscious around her more confident classmates. And while showering, Carrie notices blood from her first period, which she doesn't realise is period, but then thinks that something is wrong with her because her mother never taught her about it. When she goes to her classmates for help, they make fun of her for it, but Chris, uh, played by Portia Doubleday, I believe is how you pronounce her name. I'm not familiar with anything she's in, I don't think. Obviously, except for this. Mr. Robot, a film with Joaquin Phoenix called Her. Uh, another actress who's been in Big Mama. Them fucking films. Like, this entire cast is made up of people who have been in. So Chris, who's essentially the leader of all the bullies, throws a bunch of tampons at her alongside everyone else. Sue clearly shows remorse for her actions briefly before Rita comes in and calms her down by slapping her. There was a lot of themes of abuse in this film. It did it again. It just keeps. I'm wondering if I'm accidentally catching it, and I apologise. This channel is very professional. So yeah, in the principal's office, Rita and Principal Henry, who's played by Bara Shabaka Henley, console her, and Henry insists on informing Margaret, which makes her panic and smash a water cooler with her powers. It shatters like it's made of glass. Did you notice that? Rather than like plastic where it explodes, it like smashes. How the fuck does he have a glass water cooler?
Very, very expensive.
Yes, probably. A bit too much for a fucking school to have. Then again, at work, we have a fancy one where we just press a button and it doesn't glub glub glub. It's a water machinely thing. Anyway. So at school, Margaret picks her up to take her home as Chris shows her boyfriend Billy, played by Alex Russell. Absolute piece of shit in this film, by the way. It's probably a really nice guy, however, Billy is a cunt. Billy is a cunt, I'm sorry. He's known for not much, really. A lot of just random stuff. Nothing really interesting. He was in a film with Daniel Radcliffe called Jungle. Never heard of that. But he's probably a really nice guy. They always make him pieces of shit, but he's probably lovely. Fun fact, was played by John Travolta back in the original. God, have you seen John Travolta now? He's bald.
No, I don't even know.
You don't know you don't know who John Travolta is? That is not what I fucking asked. How do you not? You've seen Grease. Well, you've heard of Grease. John Travolta. That's bald. He egg now. That was him then. That's him now.
Because I've only.
I'll see him in Carrie. Look how young he is there. How old was he when this came out? He must have been so young. I'm wondering if this was one of his first roles. Like how Johnny Depp was in Nightmare. As like one of his first ones.
Mm.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll get on with it. So, Carrie tries to speak with Margaret about her period, but she refuses to do it outside, which makes her stay in the car with her mind. That is so satisfying, watching him tit over, because he's such a little bastard, and it's great. Going inside, she sees Margaret banging her head against the wall. When Margaret... That was weird, sorry, that just came up that I've been connected to the call, even though I've been in the call the entire time. Apologies if I've been quiet. So she goes inside where she sees Margaret banging her head against the wall, where Margaret quotes the Bible at her instead of talking to her. Margaret is a fucking religious psychopath. She is a fanatic. Absolute lunatic. Would you agree?
Definitely.
So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, if you're new to this, you'll know her thoughts are very limited here. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit shit, isn't it? Yeah. Sometimes I feel like you're just here to feel involved, as opposed to actually like providing your thoughts. You like before it starts, you give it like a brief rundown of. Yeah, I actually quite liked it. And then afterwards, you go, yeah, it was all right. Well, a cup of tea. I wouldn't get it on DVD. You don't even need to be in a video anymore. I could do this thing for you.
Oh, okay.
I do that anyway. It's just at the end, I'm gonna go. What are your thoughts? And you go, yeah, it's all right. It wasn't my cup of tea. I probably wouldn't get it on DVD, but I still enjoyed it.
I'm gonna get that on a t-shirt.
Is it just going to be a like a like a like an art of a cup of tea, like clip art, and then a big like cross through it in the sky, and you pointing down at it, it's not my cup of tea. Because if you're new to this, you know that you won't know that her way of grading films is to get it on DVD, and as a result, that has basically become a bit of a running joke from me and you during these. It's just like get it on
Well,
DVD.
this one, and we're keeping it, so
Yeah.
it says something.
Well, it's only because I bought it digitally and I can't exactly return it to the shop. Anyway, I forgot to say, by the way, there is a lot of heavy themes in this. Lots of self-harm, mental and physical abuse. However, it works for the plot, these depressing, um, plot points.
Mm.
Whereas with Creep, where we had something fucked up in that served no purpose except for shock value. But this makes sense for the plot reason. Don't watch Creep. Do not like watch the good Creep that came out a few years ago. Do not watch the one we've covered on the channel. It is garbage. It is possibly one of the worst films I've ever seen, and I've seen things like Sharknado, and we've reviewed Santa's Sleigh on this channel. Like, come on. So yeah, Margaret writes the Bible at her instead of talking to her, and Margaret hits her with the Bible and insists she will keep her at home, denying Carrie's accusations of sinning and forcing her into a closet to pray and locking her inside. Sorry, I'm a bit gassy, and also we're still a bit recovering from an illness we had. It's not as bad as the Ted 2 review, though, because you wouldn't stop coughing your lungs up, and you kept fucking snorting your nose into the tissue. So Carrie pleads to be released until her powers crack the door open down the middle as a statue of Jesus bleeds. I don't know why that happened. Sue and Tommy are having sex when Sue suddenly stops. How she regrets what she did, but says she never apologised for it. Bill and Chris go back to his with another friend, Tina, who's played by Zoe Belkin, where they proceed to post the video of Carrie's period outburst online. I'm only naming these side characters because they're going to die later, and some of them die quite horribly, which is really satisfying, but it's horrible at the same time. We give awards for these. We give awards. We judge them on how good they are, on how good people are murdered in this film. Anyway. Margaret sings to Christian songs as Carrie sits in the closet, and after opening it, she finds Carrie asleep and wakes her up. At gym class, Rita picks out Chris and Sue from the others and informs them and everyone else that they must run or be suspended as punishment for what happened to Carrie. When Chris pleads child abuse and swears at Rita, she is suspended and banned from the prom. She then tries to rally the others, including Samantha Weinstein, an unfortunate last name, but I don't believe has any relation to them, to him even, because I think the brother wasn't as bad. Anyway, I don't know that though. I apologise if I've got that wrong. But the others are remorseful for what they did and do not stand with her. Carrie arrives in school and cracks a mirror with her mind and the shards, coming to the realization that she can control her powers. And then she heads to the library after to search for books that may provide her with some more information about her telekinesis. In class, she is called up to the front to share a poem where she is mocked by a student. The teacher then calls it disturbing, and Tommy calls him an arsehole under his breath. At her work, Margaret serves Sue's mother and is clearly furious and picks at her own leg with a tool until it bleeds. She harms herself a lot in this. It's quite depressing. Chris and her dad speak with the principal about the incident in a gym class, and Rita manages to turn Chris's own father against her by asking for her phone for the video. Feeling betrayed, she storms out into the gym where her friends are preparing for the prom. Chris confronts Sue about not standing by her, and despite everything, Chris is still refusing to take any responsibility for her actions. Chris is a bitch, putting it simple. Chris claims that Sue doesn't care about Carrie and claims she is doing her own game. At home, Carrie practices her telekinesis on a book. I press page down. He did it. Honestly, we need to make a bingo sheet for in an episode. Like, I press page down, you grade it on a DVD. You say it's not my cup of tea.
I think because you have that subscribe account now, is it time to have a linked shop down there?
I can't have merch. That's taking the piss. Although, if you want merch, I can try and hook you guys up. Anyway. Yeah, I'll press page down. And then I'll get lost because I go on a side tangent. So yeah, at home, Carrie practices her telekinesis on a book and manages to lift it in the air alongside several other books and her own bed, while pulling this weird face. Throughout the film, whenever she uses her powers, she sort of just like, oh, she like opens her mouth and like frowns, just like, it's really weird. The CGI was a bit weird here as well, with all the books lifting up. However, I think they may have been practical. I don't know. This alarms Margaret, who hears it from downstairs, and she grabs a kitchen knife and heads up. However, enters the room after Carrie had replaced everything. Sue meets with Tommy after his gym class and asks him to take Carrie to prom in order to make things right, which he reluctantly agrees to. Finds Carrie in a cafeteria studying her books on her powers and proceeds to ask her, which she is shocked by, and leaves. Tommy catches up to her, and Carrie believes it to be a trick and storms away to the girls' locker room, where she is found by Rita. Carrie tells her about Tommy, and she tells her to go for it, but does not. But she does, however, afterwards confront the two, Sue and Tommy, but they defend their actions. Carrie arrives at home and finds Tommy waiting outside for her. She is still confused by him asking her, and she does eventually come round to the idea. She later goes out and browses for a dress to wear, which Tina and Chris see her do. She gets home later that night to her psychotic mother, who is furious at her for going against her wishes and for being prom. Margaret attempts to put more control over their lives, but is terrified into silence when Carrie's powers lift all the furniture, and Carrie lifts Margaret up off the ground, which solidifies her belief of Carrie being a creation of Satan. Billy, Chris, and two of Billy's friends go to a pig farm in the night, where Billy brutally butchers a pig with a sledgehammer to collect its blood for the prank. You've all seen the clips online, you know exactly what's going. It's very famous. More in the original than a remake. But the original is more famous online. I lost it. So as Carrie makes her own dress at home, Billy and Chris position a bucket full of pig's blood above the stage at the gymnasium. The students all pamper themselves up to prepare for the prom, and before Carrie can leave for the night, Margaret once more berates her appearance. She once more refuses to let Carrie do her own thing and tries to harm herself to make her stay until Tommy arrives in a limo to pick her up. As Carrie leaves, Margaret continues to berate her and spout religious messages at her until Carrie locks her in the closet using her powers. And then her and Tommy arrive at the prom, and Carrie holds back from going in due to her anxiety, but Tommy uses his charm to persuade her into entering. Tommy meets with one of his friends, whose girlfriend does her best to be friendly with Carrie. Carrie settles in as Rita comes over to speak with her before Tommy leaves the two of them alone. He texts Sue to let her know all is going well before returning back to Carrie, and invites her to an after party while also inviting her to have a slow dance, which he didn't need to do, but because Tommy's actually nice, he's doing it. The two dance with one another, and Carrie still doesn't believe it's genuine, but Tommy manages to convince her otherwise. Tina lets Billy and Chris in when the announcement of Homecoming King and Queen is about to be announced. Carrie's surprised to see their names on the list, and Tommy manages to charm her into voting for themselves. Chris sends Chris sends an ominous text message to Sue, which makes her rush to the prom as Tina switches the real votes out for fake ones. Sue arrives at prom as Tommy and Carrie are announced as the winners, much to her surprise. Yeah, it's page 3. It's page 3 of 3. You know where this is going. You know it's about to go tits up. And it goes royally tits up. Billy manages to pressure Chris into pulling on the police system, which is holding a bucket up. As Sue realizes something is wrong, however, before she can do anything, she's thrown out by Rita, believing that Sue is there to harm Carrie. Unfortunately, the bucket spills pig's blood onto Tommy, and Carrie projects the locker room video onto a big screen. Here we go. Billy drags Chris out as the bucket slips and falls onto Tommy's head, killing him instantly. What? 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 How did that fucking shitty little bucket kill him? It just donks him on the head and he's dead. I get brain damage and hemorrhaging and shit. Really that quick? Yeah, no, that didn't sit well with either of us. You wouldn't have even believed he had died until I said that. I think he dies like that in the original. But I can't remember. I know the deaths are very different throughout either of the adaptations. I can't remember if he actually dies from the bucket hitting him in the original. Fuck off. I don't want the Tommy fucking last name. Does he die in the original? Yeah, he dies the same way. He is also hit on the head by a bucket. Why do they keep thinking that is a fair thing? They're just yeah, that's a good idea. He's going to be killed by a little bucket falling on his head. I don't get it. Anyway, enough about him dying. You can tell which one's getting the work. This causes Carrie to finally snap and realise that she's being delivered by someone other than Tommy. Carrie turns to face the crowd and sends a shockwave out that sends everyone flying, with Heather smashing into one of the doors and dying from it. Tina's boyfriend attempts to flee up the bleachers, but Carrie crushes his lower body between two of them. That was brutal. That made you gasp. I remember hearing you going, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, because that was graphic. You could see the blood
The blood was pouring out of his mouth from his insides, just being smushed. Definitely a contender for best kill there. However, let's go to some later on. Another student has a table thrown at him when he attempts to take a picture. It's one where it just cuts. It flings at him, it zooms in on his face, and then he's lying dead on the ground. However, a table at that speed probably would have just fucking splattered him. Anyway. Two of Chris's friends, who are also twins, are trampled beneath some fleeing students. Carrie knocks up some lighting rigs down with fire and activates the sprinklers. She uses the wires to repeatedly whip Tina with, repeatedly just over and over, zapping her, which causes her to walk backwards into a fire, which ignites her dress and burns her to death. Yeah. Carrie grabs Rita and lifts her up in, which you initially believed was going to be her killing her. You'll be surprised to know that she dies in the original. She gets crushed by a basketball hoop, backboard, swings down and catches her in the midsection. Spoilers for the original. It's a bit late now, but here we are. So yeah, I think that was meant to be oh, here we go, killer. However, in reality, she lifts Rita up and drops the wires into the water, which was caused by the sprinklers going off. However, it like floods the room. It's like a small like pool of it. So yeah, she lifts Rita up in the air and drops the wires into the water, which kills many of the unfortunate students and staff who are still on the ground. And when I read up on the wiki, that does include the dickhead English teacher that bullied her in class.
Oh, right.
That's a fun little side fact. Mr. Allman, I think his name is. I can't remember. He was a prick, but he's dead. Carrie leaves the building and spots Billy and Chris attempting to leave the building. That's not English. Carrie leaves the building and spots Billy and Chris attempting to escape from the mess they caused. I will say some students made it out, so I can't count everybody as dead. However, a lot of the main dickhead characters died. The principal died. I didn't think he died, but he got knocked over and trampled to death. Yeah, it's weird. I don't think as many people. I don't think anyone survived in the original. I think she locked all the doors and left them and escaped. She just let them all burn to death in the fire. I may be wrong. We will cover that film eventually, but for now we will leave it. We will take it as my word as truth. So yeah, Billy and Chris attempt to escape. However, she stamps on the road, which leaves a giant hole to open up in front of Billy's car, which doesn't allow them to leave. They turn around to try to run her over, which fails when she immediately stops their car where it is. In the original, she simply flips the car. Both Billy and Chris die in the ensuing crash. However, Kimberly Pierce thought, that's not good enough. So it's one of them where it's just an immediate stop while they're speeding, so the car sort of, like it hit something, like it crashed. And because apparently Billy's car doesn't have fucking airbags, he smashes his head on the steering wheel and kills him. Which I think was a bit too merciful for someone who appeared of a prick. However, it's not over yet. Chris is then locked in the car and still tries to run Carrie down with the car until she lifts it up in the air and crashes it into a payphone. Are you ready? Which forces Chris's face through the windscreen and gets it stuck there. Like, her face is just stuck in the windscreen. It's disgusting. But yeah, fair enough. Like, she was a cunt. She either quickly dies of blood loss, or more definitively, Carrie uses a fucking telephone pole to blow the petrol station up, which probably definitely killed her. So either she died from her face being smashed through a windscreen, or when the entire petrol station exploded. So Sue manages to escape from the inside of the prom, passing Rita as she does, and the two share a moment as Carrie makes her way home, crying out for Margaret. She goes inside, finding her free from the closet, and goes to wash the blood off herself. Leaving the bathroom, she finds Margaret and embraces her, seeking forgiveness for what happened, and Margaret decides to tell Carrie how she was deceived and sinned by having non-marital sex, which she likes. Carrie and Margaret pray together briefly before Margaret to Carrie's back, causing her to force the two of them apart, with Carrie falling down the stairs. Margaret, however, manages to recover quite quickly and stalks after her, blaming herself for Carrie and repeatedly attempts to stab her. However, Carrie manages to overpower her and uses her power to impale her several times against the door to the closet. Carrie quickly frees her from the various items, pinning her against the wall, and cradles her in her arms before she succumbs to her in dive. Good bitch. Sue enters the house and offers to help Carrie, which she refuses and tries to strangle Sue briefly before letting her go. Carrie says she regrets killing her mother as her powers start destroying the house around her. Carrie reaches out and tells Sue she is pregnant with a girl, which she wasn't aware of, before forcing her out of the house as it completely crumbles, presumably crushing Carrie inside. In a court hearing, Sue defends what she saw Carrie at the prom as not being a freak accident, but her actually having powers. Sue later visits Carrie's grave where it has been vandalised, placing a rose at it, Before the gravestone suddenly cracks and Carrie's scream can be heard as the film ends. And there you have it. The 2013 remake of Carrie. So, now we do the usual. Babe, what are your thoughts on the film?
As I say, I actually enjoyed it, and the effects were good, and yeah, she's a really good actress, so she kind of made it.
I think the cast did a good job. I think not only Chloe Grace Moretz, I
I
think,
kind of feel like the arsehole with that girl who was in the car could have suffered a little bit more because
yeah, her boyfriend,
they're not
her
really
enabler
human.
boyfriend. I mean, he does die horribly. Like, at least he's not just like stabbed and dies. He fucking cracks his head open on the steering wheel because apparently airbags don't exist. No, I think everyone did a great job. I think especially Chloe Grace Moretz and Julianne Moore. I think Julianne Moore can be genuinely scary when she wants to be. She's a very intimidating presence in this film. Like her character is a complete piece of shit. As I say, a complete like turn from her in Jurassic Park. Like, come on, like Jesus. But Chloe Grace Moretz, of course, does a great job as Carrie. She really makes her. She really humanises that character. Yeah, overall, we really enjoyed it. Best kill, worst kill. We agreed on best kill being Chris, just because of how brutal that is, and I think it was practical. If I read correctly, most of her death was practical, just enhanced by CGI. I may be wrong, so that's not my fault if I am. Worst kill goes to Tommy, obviously, with the bucket. Doesn't make sense. It's stupid. Even though there was a couple of pretty like lame deaths, I think a lot of them probably could have died quite horribler, I guess. Something like that. I don't know. I don't know English. And yeah, overall, really good. We definitely enjoyed it. So, would you? I have to ask before you go, babe. Would you get it on DVD
Yes.
if we didn't have it on digital?
Yeah. I will.
Yeah, that's going to be a new question I'm going to ask at the end of every. Would you get it on DVD? Because that is the difference between a good film and a shit film in your book.
Mm.
So yeah, there you go. You heard it here first, folks. This is one of her first films to get on. Well, we tried to get it on DVD and couldn't find it anywhere. So anyway, thank you ever so much for listening once more to us ramble on for about half an hour. I, of course, have been your host, as always, and I joined, as ever, by Amelia. You can find her links in the link tree in the description, alongside all of our extra ones. And other than that, there's nothing more to say, really. It's my turn next. I've got a couple of good ones I really want to. It's got to the point now where I just have too many fucking movies that I want to do that I can't pick from them. But for now, this has been the Nova Project. We don't have a name for this show. We'll probably think of one day. There's been 40 of these now. I think it's about time it had a proper name.
Fluffington reviews.
No. Absolute cringe. He's not even here. Does his left. Anyway, thank you again. And we'll see you for my review in a couple. Bye!